The emergency room doors burst open as paramedics wheeled in a stretcher, the woman's military fatigue soaked in blood. Monitors beeped erratically, vital signs plummeting with each passing second. Dr. Ethan Parker had been on duty for 24 hours straight, but exhaustion vanished the moment he saw her condition. Female, early 30s, severe internal bleeding from vehicle collision, the paramedic reported. BP dropping, pulse thready. Ethan moved with practiced precision, assessing the wounds as nurses prepared for emergency surgery. The hospital administrator, Richard Dawson, appeared at his shoulder, voice low but firm. "She's not registered here. Protocol says transfer her to Veterans Affairs." Ethan didn't look up, continuing to stabilize the bleeding. "She'll be dead before she reaches VA. I'm taking her to surgery now." "Dr. Parker, I'm giving you a direct order. We can't afford—" "I don't care about what we can afford," Ethan snapped, meeting Dawson's cold stare. "I took an oath." Sometimes the bravest decisions come down to a single moment, when saving a life means risking everything you've built. As Dr. Parker made his choice that night, he couldn't possibly know how this wounded Marine would not only heal under his care, but eventually mend his own broken heart. Stay with this story to the end, because the most profound healing often comes when we least expect it, and from the most unlikely source. The morning sun filtered through worn curtains as Ethan Parker stood at the stove, dark circles under his eyes betraying his sleepless night. The kitchen was modest but clean, walls adorned with crayon drawings and school photos. Through the archway, a small dining table was already set for breakfast. 2 plates, never 3. "Dad, is the pancake supposed to be that color?" Ethan looked down at the blackened disc in the pan and sighed. He scraped it into the trash bin, already containing 2 similar failures, and poured fresh batter. "Just a practice round, Lilypad. The real ones are coming." 10-year-old Lily Parker appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school, backpack slung over one shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy ponytail that she'd clearly attempted herself. Without a word, Ethan gestured for her to sit at the counter while he redid it, his surgeon's fingers surprisingly gentle as they worked through the tangles. "Did you save her?" Lily asked quietly. Ethan's hands paused momentarily. "The woman from last night, yes. She made it through surgery." "Is that why you were so late? Mom always said your patients needed you more than we did sometimes." Her voice held no bitterness, just the matter-of-fact acceptance of a child who'd grown up with a surgeon father. Ethan finished the ponytail and turned Lily to face him. "Your mom was right about a lot of things, but she was wrong about that. Nobody needs me more than you do." The kitchen phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the moment. Ethan answered, his expression darkening as he listened. Lily watched, expertly reading the subtle changes in her father's face, a skill she'd developed since her mother's death 3 years ago. "I understand. Yes, I'll be there." He hung up, staring at the wall for a long moment. "Yeah." Ethan forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just grown-up stuff, Lilypad. Nothing for you to worry about." He flipped a perfectly golden pancake onto a plate. "Breakfast is served. Better eat fast, or we'll be late." Lily knew better than to press, but as she ate, her eyes drifted to the photographs lining the hallway. Most featured her mother, Sarah, a woman with Lily's same expressive eyes and gentle smile. One frame lay face down, as it had since the night Sarah died, when Ethan had slammed it in grief. At the Cedar Grove County Hospital, Lieutenant Maya Collins awakened to unfamiliar surroundings. Pain radiated through her body, centering in her abdomen where surgical bandages wrapped tightly. The sterile white ceiling spun slightly as she tried to orient herself. "Welcome back," a nurse said, approaching the bed to check vital signs. "You gave everyone quite a scare." Maya's throat felt like sandpaper. "What happened?" "Car accident on Route 9. You were heading back to base when you went off the road." The nurse offered a small cup of water with a straw. "Do you remember anything?" Maya drank gratefully, fragments of memory returning, the headlights coming toward her, the sudden flashback to the explosion overseas, the panic that seized her chest, making it impossible to breathe or steer properly. She'd been having these episodes more frequently since returning from deployment. "Not much," she lied. "How bad is it?" "Internal bleeding, lacerated liver, broken ribs. but Dr. Parker performed emergency surgery. Another hour without intervention and you wouldn't have made it. The nurse adjusted Maya's IV. Dr. Parker? Our trauma surgeon, well, he was. The nurse's expression fell. There's a board meeting tomorrow. They're saying he broke protocol by treating you instead of transferring you to VA. The administrator's been looking for reasons to cut costs. Dr. Parker's department is expensive. Maya struggled to sit up despite the pain. He's in trouble for saving my life? Hospital politics. The nurse gently pressed her back down. Rest now. You've got a long recovery ahead. I need to be at that meeting, Maya said, determination hardening her voice. Across town, Ethan sat in his car outside the elementary school, watching Lily disappear through the front doors. Once she was safely inside, he allowed his composure to crack, hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The morning's phone call replayed in his mind. Suspended pending review, protocol violation, unauthorized treatment. 3 years of pulling double shifts, sacrificing time with Lily to keep the trauma department running after budget cuts had reduced staff, all potentially ending because he'd refused to let a patient die. His gaze fell on the pile of bills in the passenger seat. Sarah's medical expenses had drained their savings in the final months of her illness. The mortgage was 3 weeks overdue. Without his salary, they had perhaps 2 months before financial collapse. What would you tell me to do, Sarah? He whispered to the empty car. No answer came, just as it hadn't for the 3 years he'd been asking questions to her memory. The hospital board meeting room was filled to capacity the following morning. Ethan sat alone at the table, facing 5 board members and Administrator Dawson, whose thin smile couldn't hide the triumph in his eyes. No legal representation, no defense prepared. When asked if he understood the charges against him, Ethan simply stated, I made the only choice a doctor could make. Dawson was midway through his statement about budget constraints and protocol importance when the door opened. The room fell silent as Lieutenant Maya Collins entered, still in hospital gown beneath a hastily donned military jacket, an IV pole serving as makeshift support. Her face was pale with effort, surgical bandages visible beneath the jacket. Lieutenant Collins, you should be in bed, Dr. Westfield, the chief of medicine, began. With all due respect, sir, I should be dead. Maya's voice was weak but unwavering. According to your protocols, I should have been transferred to a facility 40 minutes away while bleeding internally. Dr. Parker made the only humane choice available. The issue isn't the quality of care, Dawson interjected. It's about hospital resources and proper... The issue, Maya cut in, is whether this hospital exists to save lives or save money. She straightened, military bearing evident despite her injuries. In combat, we have protocols too, but any soldier who lets a teammate die because of bureaucracy would be court-martialed. Her words hung in the air, but Ethan could see they changed nothing. The decision had been made before the meeting began. When the vote came, 4-1 for termination. He accepted it with a single nod. Only Dr. Westfield had voted in his favor, avoiding Ethan's eyes afterward. In the parking lot, Maya caught up to him, her breathing labored from the exertion. I can't believe they fired you for saving my life. Ethan stared at the hospital building where he'd worked for 15 years. It's not your fault. They've been looking for reasons to cut costs. I was expensive. This isn't right. I have connections in the military. We could go to the media. And then what? Ethan interrupted. Small-town doctor fights big hospital? Even if I won, who would hire a troublemaker? He softened, seeing her distress. I just need to figure out how to tell my daughter and find another job. Maya straightened, a decision forming. I need someone to check my stitches and monitor my recovery. The VA is overbooked for weeks. I'll pay you directly. When he hesitated, she added, Consider it my first attempt at making this right. Against his better judgment, Ethan handed her his address. One house call. That's all I'm agreeing to. Maya appeared on Ethan's doorstep the next afternoon, coinciding with Lily's return from school. The girl froze on the walkway, backpack sliding off one shoulder as she studied the uniformed stranger at her door. Are you a soldier? She asked, approaching cautiously. Irene, Maya corrected with a gentle smile. Lieutenant Maya Collins. Lily's eyes widened. Did you fight in a war? Lily, Ethan chided, appearing behind Maya. Lieutenant Collins is here as a patient. It's okay, Maya assured him before turning back to Lily. Yes, I served in Afghanistan. I was a combat medic, like a doctor, but for soldiers in the field. This revelation transformed Lily's curiosity into fascination. Throughout Maya's medical checkup, she peppered her with questions about military life, medals, and battlefield medicine. Maya answered each one patiently, occasionally catching Ethan's eye with a smile. He noticed how she carefully edited her responses, protecting Lily from the harsher realities of combat while never lying. As Maya prepared to leave, Lily delivered her assessment. Your stitches look good. My dad's the best at fixing people. I believe that, Maya replied, glancing at Ethan with newfound respect. We have spaghetti on Thursdays, Lily continued. It's the only thing Dad doesn't burn. Ethan felt heat rise to his face. Lily, Lieutenant Collins probably has plans. Maya studied him for a moment, something unreadable in her expression. Actually, I don't, but only if I can bring dessert. That Thursday dinner began a quiet ritual. Maya would arrive with dessert, always store-bought, she admitted to having inherited her father's lack of culinary skills, and they would share a meal that gradually evolved from awkward politeness to genuine comfort. Ethan noticed how Lily blossomed in Maya's presence, soaking up attention from another adult, particularly one with such fascinating stories. For Ethan, these evenings became islands of normality in a sea of growing concern. Job applications went unanswered or returned with polite rejections. Medical bills continued to arrive. The severance package from the hospital would cover expenses for another month, perhaps 6 weeks, with careful budgeting. For Maya, the Parker home offered respite from her sparse apartment on base, where nightmares waited each night. During dinner, the flashbacks and anxiety receded. She found herself inventing reasons to visit, bringing books for Lily, offering to help with homework, dropping off groceries that would just go bad in her refrigerator. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Maya found Ethan at the kitchen table, surrounded by job listings and bills. Any prospects? She asked, setting a cup of coffee beside him. A few interviews, but they're all hours away. He rubbed his eyes wearily. Would mean relocating. You seem reluctant. Ethan's gaze drifted to the hallway of photographs. Lily visits her mother's grave every Saturday. Tells her about her week. Moving would mean... He trailed off, unable to finish. Maya nodded, understanding the unspoken weight. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only develops between people who have seen each other's vulnerabilities and chosen not to exploit them. What about you? Ethan finally asked. When do you return to active duty? Maya stared into her coffee. Medical review next month. They'll determine if I'm fit to return. And are you fit to return? Their eyes met, a moment of complete honesty between them. I don't sleep much, Maya admitted. When I do, I'm back there, the ambush, the explosion. I couldn't save them all. Survivor's guilt, Ethan observed softly. I'm familiar with the symptoms. Is that your professional diagnosis, doctor? A hint of defensiveness crept into her voice. No, he replied. That's my personal experience. After Sarah died, I kept thinking, if I'd noticed the symptoms earlier, pushed for more aggressive treatment. He shrugged. Intellectually, I knew I'd done everything possible. Emotionally, that's a different story. It was the first time he'd spoken Sarah's name aloud to Maya. A threshold crossed. Maya reached across the table, her fingers lightly touching his. Does it get better? Not better, different. You build a life around the empty space. His hand turned almost unconsciously to hold hers. Having Lily helps, having purpose. Neither acknowledged the contact, but neither pulled away until the kitchen clock chimed 11, breaking the spell. 2 weeks later, Ethan ran into Dr. Wilson, his former colleague at the local pharmacy. The older doctor greeted him warmly, then lowered his voice. You should know the real story, Ethan. Dawson had budget cuts to make. Your department was targeted because your treatment protocols prioritized patient outcomes over profit margins. The Marine's case was just the excuse he needed. Doesn't matter now, Ethan replied, though anger flickered briefly across his features. I have to leave town to find work. There's an opening in Burlington. Dr. Wilson frowned. 4 hours away? What about Lily? What about her? She needs stability, security. I can't provide that here anymore. That evening, Maya arrived to find Ethan surrounded by moving boxes, the living room half-packed. Lily was at a friend's house for a sleepover, sparing her the sight of her home being dismantled. You got a job, Maya said, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. UR Ellington Medical Center. They need a trauma surgeon. He continued packing books without meeting her eyes. We move next week. Maya stood frozen in the doorway, a grocery bag forgotten in her hands. That's good news then. It's necessary, he corrected. Were you going to tell me or just disappear? The accusation in her tone made him stop. Maya, I'm doing what I have to do for my daughter. I know we haven't known each other long, she began, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. But you and Lily, you've helped me more than you know. The nightmares are less frequent when I'm here. I feel human again. Ethan finally looked at her, conflict evident in his expression. I haven't felt this alive since losing Sarah. But I have to be practical. Lily needs stability. Maya took a deep breath. The military hospital on base is looking for civilian trauma surgeons. The pay is good, and you wouldn't have to relocate. Suspicion clouded his features. Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything. Maybe I'm being selfish, she admitted. Maybe I need you both in my life. The moment hung between them, electric with possibility, until Maya's phone rang. Her commander's name flashed on the screen. The conversation was brief, her responses clipped and professional, but Ethan watched her face pale. What is it? He asked when she hung up. They've moved up my fitness review. Someone reported concerns about my mental state after the accident. Her voice had reverted to military precision, emotion locked away. My career is in jeopardy. She left abruptly, embarrassment and fear evident in her rigid posture. Ethan stood amid the half-packed boxes, feeling as though something precious was slipping through his fingers. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, she asked the question that had been forming since Maya first appeared at their door. Do you like Maya, Dad? Like you liked Mom? Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, carefully considering his response. It's complicated, Lilypad. Dad, why? She makes you smile. You hardly ever smiled after Mom died. Maya has her own life, her own career, and we have ours. Lily's small hand found his. Mom told me before she died that your heart is big enough to love again. I think she'd like Maya. The simple wisdom of his daughter's words became Ethan's turning point. Permission from the two people he loved most to move forward. Maya faced the military medical review board alone, seated ramrod straight in her dress uniform, despite the pain still radiating from her healing wounds. 3 senior officers studied her file, while the base psychologist detailed the findings from her evaluation. Lieutenant Collins exhibits clear signs of post-traumatic stress, including flashbacks, insomnia, and hypervigilance, the doctor explained. The vehicle accident appears to have been triggered by a panic episode consistent with PTSD. My recommendation is medical leave with mandatory therapy before considering return to active duty. Maya felt her career slipping away with each clinical word. With respect, sir, I'm fit for duty. The accident was an isolated incident. Your service record is exemplary, Lieutenant, the senior officer acknowledged. But we cannot risk. The door opened, interrupting the proceedings. Ethan entered, wearing a suit and tie, expression professionally neutral. I apologize for the intrusion. I'm Dr. Ethan Parker, Lieutenant Collins' treating physician. The board chairman frowned. This is a closed proceeding, Doctor. I understand, sir. I also understand that complete medical information is crucial to your decision. He placed a folder on the table. These are my observations from treating Lieutenant Collins over the past month. Maya stared at him in disbelief, feeling betrayed. She hadn't authorized this, hadn't even told him about the hearing date. The chairman reviewed the documents, eyebrows rising. "You've been providing follow-up care?" "Yes, sir. As her surgeon, I've monitored her physical recovery. As a doctor familiar with trauma response, I've also observed her psychological state." Ethan's voice remained clinical, but his eyes briefly met Maya's. "Lieutenant Collins doesn't need discharge. She needs support. The same support we owe all who serve." "You're suggesting an alternative to medical separation?" "I'm suggesting that PTSD is treatable with proper support. Lieutenant Collins has made significant progress already. With continued therapy and a transitional assignment, she could return to full duty within 6 months." The board members conferred quietly, while Maya struggled to contain her emotions. When they finally announced their decision, 6 months limited duty with therapy requirements, she responded with appropriate military courtesy, waiting until dismissed before confronting Ethan in the hallway. "How dare you?" she hissed, anger barely contained. "You had no right to discuss my condition without permission." "You're right," he acknowledged. "I violated your privacy. But I couldn't let them end your career when I knew you could recover." "By telling them I'm broken? That I need fixing?" "By telling them you're human," he corrected gently. "That experiencing trauma after what you've been through isn't weakness, it's normal, and that healing is possible." Her anger faltered as the truth of his words registered. "How did you even know about the hearing?" "Lily, she overheard your phone call and told me you were in trouble. She was worried about you." The mention of Lily softened Maya's expression. "I need to fight my own battles, Ethan." "You've been fighting alone long enough," he replied. "Sometimes the bravest thing is accepting help." Their conversation was interrupted by news spreading through the base. Cedar Grove County Hospital was holding a public forum about recent budget decisions. The community was in uproar over staff cuts and declining patient care. "You should be there," Maya said suddenly. "To what end? My job is gone." "This isn't about getting your job back. It's about making sure no other doctor faces your choice." The county hospital's conference room overflowed with community members, many forced to stand along the walls. Administrator Dawson and the board sat at a table on a small stage, looking increasingly uncomfortable as citizens voiced concerns about longer wait times and reduced services. Ethan slipped in quietly, taking a position at the back, documentation in hand detailing how protocols had been manipulated to prioritize profit over patient care. When his turn at the microphone came, a hush fell over the room. Many recognized their former surgeon, the man who had treated their children, parents, spouses. "I'm not here to complain about losing my job," he began. "I'm here because this community deserves to know the truth about what's happening to their hospital." He outlined the systematic reduction in care quality, the pressure on doctors to discharge patients prematurely, the emphasis on billable procedures over necessary ones. As he spoke, the doors opened again. Maya entered in full dress uniform, accompanied by several Marines in similar attire. Their presence created an immediate impact, a physical manifestation of authority. When Ethan finished, Maya approached the microphone. "My name is Lieutenant Maya Collins. 6 weeks ago, I would have died if Dr. Parker had followed protocol instead of his conscience." Her clear voice carried to every corner. "In combat, we have a saying, no one gets left behind. Dr. Parker lived that principle and was punished for it. Is this how you treat heroes in your community?" The room erupted in applause and calls for action. Community members stood to share their own experiences, lives saved by Ethan's department, complications from premature discharges under the new protocols. As public sentiment turned increasingly hostile, the hospital board chairman whispered urgently to Dawson before addressing the crowd. "In light of these concerns, the board will conduct a full review of recent policy changes. Additionally, we would like to offer Dr. Parker reinstatement to his position effective immediately." A cheer went up from the crowd, but Ethan shook his head as he returned to the microphone. "I didn't come for my job back. I came so no other doctor has to choose between saving a life and keeping their position." He proposed community oversight of hospital decisions, transparent reporting of patient outcomes, and a return to patient-centered care protocols. By meeting's end, the board had agreed to all demands and placed Administrator Dawson on administrative leave, pending investigation. Outside the hospital, surrounded by well-wishers and former colleagues, Ethan finally had a moment alone with Maya. "You could have taken your job back," she said. "Why didn't you?" "Because some things matter more than a title or position, like integrity." He paused, gathering courage. "Like you." The kiss that followed was gentle, tentative, both of them conscious of crossing a threshold from which there was no return. It was Lily who interrupted them, running up from where she'd been waiting with Dr. Wilson. "Does this mean we're not moving away?" she asked, hope brightening her features. Ethan knelt to her level, with Maya beside him. "How would you feel about me working at the base hospital instead? We'd stay here, in our home, near Mom, and maybe Maya could visit even more often." Lily's response was to throw her arms around both of them simultaneously, the first formation of their new family unit, there on the sidewalk where their individual journeys had unexpectedly converged. 6 months later, morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows of the Parker home. Subtle changes marked Maya's integration into their lives. Military boots by the door alongside Ethan's work shoes and Lily's sneakers, a service photograph now hanging among the family pictures, a calendar on the refrigerator tracking 3 sets of schedules. Ethan prepared breakfast while Maya helped Lily with her hair, their domestic rhythm now well established. The morning news played quietly in the background, a report about the county hospital's turnaround under new leadership. "They're calling it the Parker Protocol," Maya noted, finishing Lily's braid. "Patient care over profit margins." "Dad's famous," Lily declared proudly. Ethan shook his head, embarrassed by the attention. "I just did what was right." "Which is exactly why they named it after you," Maya pointed out, accepting the coffee mug he offered. Their fingers brushed in the exchange, a small gesture of intimacy. Later that morning, they stood together at Sarah's grave, Lily carefully arranging fresh flowers while Maya waited at a respectful distance. This monthly ritual had evolved, changing from one of grief to one of remembrance and continuity. "Mom, guess what?" Lily chatted happily to the headstone. "I got an A on my science project. Maya helped me build a real field medical kit, just like she used in Afghanistan." Ethan listened, marveling at his daughter's resilience. When she finished, he squeezed her shoulder gently. "Why don't you ask Maya to join us?" Lily ran to take Maya's hand, leading her to the graveside. Maya had never approached before, always giving father and daughter privacy for this most intimate family moment. "Sarah," Ethan said softly, "this is Maya. She makes us smile again." Maya knelt beside the grave, removing her service medal and placing it carefully among the flowers. "I promise to look after them both," she whispered, words meant only for the woman she'd never meet, but whose presence remained central in the lives she now shared. That weekend, the base hospital held a fundraiser for its new civilian trauma center. As one of the lead surgeons, Ethan found himself surrounded by colleagues and community members. The former hospital administrator had been replaced, and Ethan now consulted on ethical guidelines for emergency care throughout the region. His experience had created positive change in the system that once rejected him. A young doctor approached, introducing herself as a new resident. "Your case is why I chose emergency medicine," she confided. "Sometimes the right choice isn't the easy one." Across the room, Maya was engaged in conversation with her commanding officer. Her limited duty status had recently been upgraded, allowing her to train new combat medics, a position that utilized her experience while accommodating her ongoing recovery. The nightmares hadn't disappeared completely, but their frequency and intensity had diminished with therapy and the stability she'd found with Ethan and Lily. Later that evening, they hosted a small gathering in their backyard. Ethan's colleagues, Maya's military friends, Lily's schoolmates and their parents. As twilight settled, Maya found a quiet moment with Ethan near the old oak tree at the property's edge. "I got my new assignment," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. Ethan braced himself, wondering if this was the moment their carefully constructed life together would begin to unravel. "Where are they sending you?" "Training position, right here at the base." Her smile bloomed slowly. "Permanent posting." The relief that washed over him was so profound he had to steady himself against the tree. Their embrace was interrupted by Lily calling them for cake, a celebration of Maya moving in officially, though she'd been staying more nights than not for months. Later, with Lily asleep and the house quiet again, Ethan and Maya sat on the living room couch looking through family photos, now including new ones with Maya in them. The chronology of their lives together was taking shape, past and present intermingling on these pages. "I never thought I'd have this," Maya confessed softly. "After what I saw overseas, what I lost, I didn't think I deserved happiness." Sarah used to say that the most broken pieces, when put back together, make the strongest bonds. Ethan's voice was tender with memory, but no longer raw with grief. Maya placed a small wrapped gift in his hand, a carved wooden puzzle piece. "I had this made. It's supposed to represent the missing piece," he finished for her, "not replacing what was lost, but creating something new." He held it up to the light, examining the craftsmanship. On one side, the wooden piece was rough-hewn, bearing the scars of its creation. On the other, it was polished smooth, beautiful in its imperfection. Like them, it carried the marks of its journey, while still fitting perfectly where it belonged. On the mantel, a new family photograph waited to be framed. Ethan, Lily, and Maya at the lake, laughing in the sunlight. Beside it sat the older photos of Sarah, not hidden away or replaced, but incorporated into the fuller story their lives had become. Ethan reached for Maya's hand as evening light streamed through the windows, illuminating all the photographs, past and present, forming one complete story. The empty spaces would always remain, marked by the people they'd lost, but no longer defined by absence alone. Instead, they'd built something new around those spaces, something neither of them had believed possible when fate first brought them together in that emergency room. Sometimes the most profound healing comes from those who know exactly how it feels to be broken. And sometimes, the family you build from the fragments of loss becomes stronger than you ever imagined possible. Because it's not about erasing the past, it's about finding the courage to build a future, one healing moment at a time.